Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of his ship, the Horizon. The stars outside looked peaceful, but something was wrong. His radio officer, Tony Garcia, had picked up a strange signal 3 hours ago. It was coming from a planet called Kepler 442b. "Captain, the signal is getting stronger," Tony said. He wore headphones and kept adjusting dials on his equipment. "It sounds like a distress call, but it's very weak." Jake looked at the planet on his screen. According to their records, no one lived there. The Galactic Council had marked it as empty space, but the signal was definitely coming from down there. "Take us down, Linda," Jake told his pilot, Linda Ross. She was one of the best pilots in the human fleet. Her hands moved quickly over the controls as she guided the ship toward the planet. The Horizon landed in a field of purple grass. The air outside was thin, but safe to breathe. Jake put together a team to investigate. He took Tony, Linda, Doctor, Amy Brooks, the ship's doctor, and 6 security officers led by Pete Johnson. They followed the signal for 2 miles. The landscape was mostly empty, except for strange blue trees that grew in perfect circles. Then they saw it. A large metal building sat in a valley, hidden from view above. It looked like a prison. "That's not supposed to be here," Pete said. He carried a rifle and kept looking around for danger. The council said this planet was empty. Jake pulled out his scanner. The device showed many life signs inside the building. Too many for a research station or mining operation. Something was very wrong. They approached the building carefully. It had high walls with sharp wire on top. Guard towers stood at each corner, but they seemed empty. The main entrance was a heavy metal door with alien writing on it. "Can you read that?" Jake asked Tony, who knew several alien languages. Tony studied the symbols. "It says, Detention Facility 7, authorized personnel only." His voice sounded worried. Dr. Amy Brooks checked her medical scanner. "Jake, I'm reading human life signs in there. Lots of them. And they're small signatures." She looked up with fear in her eyes. "Children. There are children in there." Jake's stomach dropped. Children? Human children? How was that possible? They were nowhere near human space. Pete tried the door. It was locked, but his security tools opened it quickly. Inside, the building was cold and gray. Long hallways stretched in both directions. The walls were bare metal, and bright lights made everything look harsh. They heard voices, quiet voices speaking in English. Jake's heart started beating faster as they followed the sounds. The first room they found held 12 children. They sat on metal benches, wearing gray uniforms. When the door opened, they looked up with tired, scared eyes. The oldest looked about 16. The youngest couldn't have been more than 8 years old. "Who are you?" asked a girl with brown hair. She stood protectively in front of the smaller children. "I'm Captain Jake Morrison, with the Human Exploration Fleet," Jake said gently. "We're here to help you. What are your names?" The girl relaxed slightly. "I'm Lisa Carter. This is Danny Walsh, and these are the others." She pointed to each child. "Are you really human? Are you here to take us home?" Jake knelt down to be at their eye level. "Yes, we're human. And yes, we're going to get you out of here." "How long?" "Have you been here?" "I don't know exactly," Lisa said. "Maybe 2 years?" "They took me from New Terra during what they called a routine inspection. My parents thought I was going on a school trip to meet the aliens." Danny Walsh, a boy about 14, stepped forward. "They took me from Titan's Rest, told my dad they needed to check my health records. That was the last time I saw him." "Doctor." Amy Brooks was already examining the children with her portable medical equipment. "Jake, these kids are malnourished. They haven't been getting proper food or sunlight. And look at their eyes. They're showing signs of psychological trauma." Jake's anger was building, but he kept his voice calm for the children. "Who did this to you? Who's been keeping you here? The tall gray ones, Danny said. They call themselves Zephyrians. They ask us lots of questions about how humans think and feel. Sometimes they show us pictures and want to know what we think about them. Lessa added, they said they were studying us to understand human psychology. But I think they were trying to change how we think. They wanted us to stop caring about going home. Pete had been exploring the rest of the facility. He came back with a grim expression. Captain, there are more rooms. I count 37 children total. All human. All taken from different colonies. Jake stood up, his hands shaking with rage. These weren't just any children. These were human. Children, stolen from their families and imprisoned by aliens who were supposed to be their allies. Where are the guards? Jake asked. Most of them left yesterday, Lisa said. They seemed worried about something. Only a few are still here, in the control room upstairs. Jake turned to Pete. Secure the facility. Arrest anyone you find. Tony, get on the radio and contact Earth Command immediately. Amy, check every child and document their condition. As his team spread out, Jake looked at the children again. They watched him with hope in their eyes for the first time in years. These kids had been through hell, but they were still human. They still remembered their families and their homes. Listen to me, Jake told them. You're safe now. We're going to take you home to your families. But first, I need you to tell me everything you remember about this place and who runs it. Lisa stepped forward again. She seemed to be the leader among the children. Captain Morrison, there's something else you need to know. This isn't the only place like this. The Zephyrians talked about other facilities. Lots of them. And it's not just human children. They have kids from other planets. Too. Jake's blood ran cold. If this was part of a bigger operation, then thousands of children might be suffering the same fate. And if the Galactic Council knew about this and did nothing, then humanity had some very serious decisions to make. The sound of footsteps echoed through the corridor. Pete's voice came over the radio. Captain, we've got the facility commander. You're going to want to hear what this alien has to say. Pete Johnson brought the alien commander to the main room. The creature was tall and gray, with 4 arms and large black eyes. It wore a silver uniform with strange symbols on the chest. When it saw Captain Morrison, it made a hissing sound. I am Warden Vex Korath, the alien said in broken English. You have no right to be here. This is Zephyrian territory. You must leave now. Jake stepped closer to the alien. His voice was cold and angry. We have every right to rescue kidnapped human children. You're going to tell me everything about this operation. Vex Korath's eyes moved nervously. These humans are not kidnapped. They are research subjects. We study them to understand human development. This is legal under Zephyrian law. Legal? Doctor. Amy Brooks looked up from examining another child. These children have been tortured. They're malnourished and traumatized. This is a war crime. The alien made another hissing sound. We have done nothing wrong. The Galactic Council approved our research into human psychology. We need to understand how humans think. Lisa Carter had been listening carefully. She walked over to Jake and tugged on his sleeve. Captain, he's lying. They weren't just studying us. They were trying to change us. Jake knelt down next to Lisa. What do you mean? They showed us pictures of our families and told us bad things about them, Lisa explained. They said our parents didn't really love us. They said humans were violent and stupid. They wanted us to believe that staying here was better than going home. Danny Walsh joined them. They also made us watch videos about how great the Zephyrian Empire was. They said if we learned to think like them, we could have better lives. But some of the older kids started believing it. Jake stood up and faced the alien again. His anger was growing stronger. You were brainwashing them. trying to turn them against their own species. Vex Korath's 4 arms moved in, what might have been a shrug. We were teaching them truth. Humans are primitive. Your emotions make you weak. We were helping them become better. Pete Johnson had been searching the facility's computer systems. He called out from across the room, "Captain, you need to see this. I found their data files." Jake walked over to where Pete was working at an alien computer terminal. Carlos Rivera, the ship's engineer, had managed to connect their equipment to the alien system. "Look at this," Carlos said, pointing to the screen. "These files show the locations of other facilities. There are over 200 of them across Zephyrian space." Jake stared at the screen in horror. Red dots marked facility locations throughout the galaxy. Each dot represented a place where children were being held prisoner. "How many children?" Jake asked. Carlos scrolled through more files. "According to this data, they're holding thousands of kids from dozens of different planets. But the humans get special treatment." "Special treatment?" "The files say humans are more psychologically resistant than other species," Carlos explained. "Most alien children break down and accept the conditioning within a few months. Human children keep fighting back, even after years of imprisonment." Lisa had followed them over to the computer. Despite being only 12 years old, she was clearly very smart. "Captain Morrison, I memorized everything I could about this place. I knew someday someone would come for us, and I wanted to have evidence." "What kind of evidence?" Jake asked. Lisa closed her eyes and began reciting information like she was reading from a book. "Facility 7 holds 37 human children taken from 12 different colonies. We're part of something called Project Compliance. The goal is to create a generation of workers who will serve the Zephyrian Empire without question." Danny added, "The guards talked about it sometimes when they thought we couldn't understand their language. But Lisa taught some of us Zephyrian words, so we knew what they were saying." Dr. Amy Brooks had finished her examinations. She came over with a grim expression. "Jake, every single child shows signs of systematic psychological abuse. They've been subjected to sleep deprivation, isolation, and constant propaganda. It's a miracle they're still sane." "We kept each other sane," Danny said. "When the guards weren't watching, we told stories about Earth and our families. Lisa helped us remember who we really are." Jake looked at the brave children around him. Despite everything they had been through, they were still human. They still cared about each other and their families back home. Tony Garcia's voice came over the radio from the ship. "Captain, I've got Earth Command on the line. They want to speak with you immediately." Jake walked outside to take the call. Admiral Kate Sullivan's face appeared on his communicator screen. She looked worried. "Morrison, what's your situation?" she asked. "Admiral, we found 37 kidnapped human children being held in an illegal detention facility," Jake reported. "This appears to be part of a larger operation involving hundreds of similar facilities." Admiral Sullivan's expression darkened. "Are the children safe?" "For now." "But Admiral, this is bigger than just one facility. They're holding thousands of children from multiple species. And they're specifically targeting humans because we're harder to break." "Understood. I'm sending backup immediately." "But Morrison, I need to warn you. The Galactic Council is already pressuring us to handle this quietly. They don't want to upset diplomatic relations with the Zephyrian Empire." Jake felt his anger flare again. "Admiral, these are human children. Our children. How can they expect us to handle this quietly?" "I know, Captain, but we need to be careful. The Zephyrians have a lot of political power in the galaxy. If we move too fast, they might cover this up or move the other children where we can't find them." Jake looked back at the facility where the children were waiting. "What are your orders, Admiral?" "Secure all the children and bring them home. Document everything you can. And Morrison, Find out how many more facilities there are. If this is as big as you think, we're going to need that information. Yes, Admiral. Jake returned to the facility. The children had gathered in the main room, staying close together. They looked at him with hope and fear mixed in their eyes. Are we really going home? Asked a small girl named Beth Palmer. Jake smiled for the first time since landing on the planet. Yes, you're all going home. But first, we're going to make sure this never happens to any other children. Vex Korath hissed from where Pete was guarding him. You cannot stop Project Compliance. The Empire is too powerful. Your species is too weak. Jake turned to face the alien. You're about to learn something about humans that your research missed. We'll do anything to protect our children. Anything. News of the kidnapped children spread across human space like fire through dry grass. Every human colony received the reports within hours. Parents everywhere began checking old records and asking new questions about their own missing children. On Earth, Admiral Kate Sullivan sat in her office, reading reports that made her blood cold. Colony after colony was finding evidence of children who had vanished during what aliens called routine visits. The numbers were growing every hour. Admiral, we have confirmation from New Boston Colony, reported Commander Beth Palmer, walking into the office with a data pad. 17 children missing over the past 3 years, all during official Zephyrian inspections. Admiral Sullivan rubbed her temples. The headache she felt was nothing compared to the rage building in her chest. How many total now? 812 confirmed missing children from 43 colonies, Beth said. And we're still getting reports. General Ryan Clark entered the room. His face was hard as stone. Kate, I've got parents calling my office demanding we declare war. The Marine Corps' recruitment centers are being flooded with volunteers. People want blood. What's the civilian response looking like? Admiral Sullivan asked. Unlike anything I've ever seen, General Clark replied. Mothers are demanding combat training. Fathers are converting civilian ships into warships. Every human who hears about this wants to fight. Commander Beth Palmer pulled up news feeds on the main screen. Videos showed crowds of angry humans gathering at spaceports across human territory. Signs read, "Bring our children home and never again." Look at this, Beth said, pointing to one feed. That's the civilian ship Golden Star. The crew voted to install weapons and join any rescue mission. They're not even military. Admiral Sullivan watched the crowds of determined humans. Have you seen anything like this before, Ryan? General Clark shook his head. No. Other species file complaints when something like this happens. They hold meetings and make speeches. Humans are talking about war. A communication came in from the Galactic Council. Ambassador Yeth Prima of the Altarian Federation appeared on screen. The blue-skinned alien looked nervous. Admiral Sullivan, the Galactic Council is deeply concerned about human military movements, Yeth Prima said. We urge restraint while we investigate these allegations. Allegations? Admiral Sullivan's voice was ice-cold. Ambassador, we have rescued 37 human children from a Zephyrian prison. We have evidence of hundreds more facilities. These are not allegations. Nevertheless, the proper channels must be followed, the alien insisted. The Zephyrian Empire is a valued member of the Galactic Council. We cannot allow military action based on incomplete evidence. General Clark stepped forward. What would your species do if someone kidnapped 800 of your children? Yeth Prima shifted uncomfortably. The Altarian Federation would pursue diplomatic solutions and legal remedies through proper channels. And how long would that take? Admiral Sullivan asked. Such matters require careful consideration. Perhaps 5 to 10 years to reach a proper resolution. The screen went quiet. Admiral Sullivan and General Clark looked at each other. 5 to 10 years while children suffered in alien prisons. Ambassador, Admiral Sullivan said slowly, "Let me explain something about humans. We don't wait 5 years when our children are in danger. We act now." After ending the call, Admiral Sullivan activated the emergency communication system. Her message went out to every human military base and colony in space. "This is Admiral Sullivan. Operation Homecoming begins immediately. All available ships are to prepare for combat operations. Our children are coming home." On the planet where Captain Morrison had found the first facility, Dr. Helen Morgan was studying the alien prisoners. As a Zenip psychologist, she wanted to understand how the aliens thought about their crimes. "Why children?" she asked Vexkorath. "Why not adults?" The Zephyrian made his hissing sound. "Adult minds are already formed. Children can be shaped, molded, made into better beings. Better according to who? According to the Empire. Human children are especially valuable because human minds are so chaotic. If we can control human thinking, from childhood we can control the most unpredictable species in the galaxy." Dr. Morgan recorded everything. She knew this information would be crucial for the trials that would come later. But something else interested her. "How do other species react when you take their children?" she asked. "Most species accept it as necessary," Vexkorath replied. "They understand that the Empire knows best. They cooperate with our research." "And humans?" For the first time, the alien seemed uncomfortable. "Humans are different. Human parents fight back. Some have died trying to protect their offspring. It is irrational behavior." Dr. Morgan smiled grimly. "From your perspective, maybe. From ours, it's the most rational thing in the universe." Meanwhile, Captain Morrison was preparing to leave the planet with the rescued children. But before departing, he had received new orders from Admiral Sullivan. "Jake, Intelligence has identified 3 more facilities within striking distance of your position." Admiral Sullivan told him over secure communication. "I'm giving you authorization to liberate them." "What about the Galactic Council's orders to wait?" Morrison asked. "The Council can file a complaint. Those children can't wait for diplomacy." Morrison gathered his crew. "We have new orders. We're going to rescue more children." Pete Johnson checked his weapons. "How many more facilities?" 3 confirmed, possibly more. "And this time, we might face armed resistance." Linda Ross, the pilot, looked up from her navigation charts. "Captain, if we do this, there's no going back. The aliens will consider it an act of war." Morrison thought about Lisa Carter and Danny Walsh and the other brave children they had rescued. Then he thought about hundreds more children waiting in similar prisons. "Linda, they kidnapped our children. As far as I'm concerned, they already declared war on you." Across human space, similar conversations were happening. Military commanders were choosing action over diplomacy. Civilian volunteers were joining rescue missions. Parents were demanding that their government fight for their missing children. The Zephyrian Empire had made a critical mistake. They had studied human psychology, but missed the most important part. Humans would sacrifice everything for their young. They would fight impossible odds and never surrender when children were at stake. In the Zephyrian capital, Ambassador Krell Fox received reports about human military movements. He dismissed them with confidence. "Let the humans make their threats," he told his assistants. "They are a young species with inferior technology. Their emotional responses make them predictable and weak." Krell Fox had no idea that his species had just awakened something that would change the galaxy forever. President Maria Rodriguez stood before the Galactic Council chambers on the space station orbiting Altair Prime. Representatives from 60 different alien species filled the massive hall. The air was thick with tension as she approached the speaking platform. The president had flown here directly from Earth after receiving Admiral Sullivan's latest reports. 12 more human children had been found in 3 different facilities. The total count was now over 1,000 missing children from 47 human colonies. Honored representatives, President Rodriguez began, her voice carrying clearly through the translator systems. I come before you today to demand justice for crimes against humanity. Ambassador Yeth Prima of the Altarian Federation shifted. In his seat, President Rodriguez, the proper procedure is to file a formal complaint and wait for investigation. Military action is not appropriate. Investigation? President Rodriguez's voice grew harder. We have rescued 89 human children from Zephyrian prison facilities. We have documented evidence of systematic kidnapping and psychological torture. What more investigation do you need? Counselor Vexnara from the Centauri Republic spoke up. The Zephyrian Empire has provided explanations for their research programs. They claim these were educational exchanges approved by local authorities. President Rodriguez pulled out a data pad and read from it. Lisa Carter, age 12, taken from New Terra 2 years ago during what her parents thought was a school trip. Danny Walsh, age 14, taken from Titan's Rest when Zephyrian officials claimed they needed to check his health records. Palmer, age 8, taken from New Eden when her family was told she would receive special alien education. The hall grew quiet as she continued reading names and ages. When she finished, she looked up at the alien representatives. These were not educational exchanges. These were kidnappings. Children as young as 8 years old were imprisoned, starved, and subjected to psychological conditioning designed to break their human identity. Ambassador Krellthox of the Zephyrian Empire stood up. He was a large, imposing figure with gray skin and 4 arms. The human president exaggerates. These children were well cared for. We were studying human development to better understand your species. By telling them their parents didn't love them? President Rodriguez shot back. By showing them propaganda designed to make them hate their own species? By keeping them in cells without sunlight for months at a time? Human children are difficult to manage, Krellthox replied coldly. They are emotional and irrational. Firm guidance was necessary. The word sent a wave of anger through the human delegation. President Rodriguez felt her own rage building, but she kept her voice controlled. Let me be very clear, she said, addressing the entire council. We demand the immediate release of all human children held in Zephyrian facilities. We demand the shutdown of Project Compliance. We demand the surrender of those responsible for these crimes for trial under galactic law. Counselor Hexvoth from the Silicon Collective spoke in his mechanical voice. Such demands would destabilize the current galactic order. The Zephyrian Empire is too powerful to be challenged directly. And what if we refuse to compromise? President Rodriguez asked. Ambassador Yeth Prima looked nervous. Surely the human government would not consider military action against a superior force. The Zephyrian Empire has the most advanced fleet in the galaxy. President Rodriguez looked around the chamber at all the alien faces. Some looked afraid. Others looked dismissive. None looked like they understood what they were dealing with. You fear their technology, she said quietly. But they should fear our determination. She activated her communicator. Admiral Sullivan's face appeared on the main screens throughout the chamber. Admiral, what is the current status of our military forces? President Rodriguez, Operation Homecoming is fully active. We have liberated 6 more facilities in the past 24 hours, freeing 137 children from multiple species. Our fleet is prepared for extended combat operations. Gasps echoed through the chamber. The aliens had not expected humans to act so quickly or decisively. What are your fleet numbers? President Rodriguez asked, knowing the aliens were listening. We have mobilized 457 military vessels and over 2,000 civilian ships converted for combat support. Every human colony has contributed vessels and personnel to the operation. Ambassador Krell Fox made a hissing sound. This is impossible. Humans do not have the resources for such a mobilization. Admiral Sullivan's image turned to look directly at the Zephyrian representative. Ambassador, you kidnapped our children. Did you really think we wouldn't come for them? President Rodriguez addressed the Council one final time. The Galactic Council has 36 hours to act on our demands. If you choose to protect the kidnappers instead of the victims, humanity will withdraw from this council and pursue our own justice. You cannot succeed against the Zephyrian Empire, Counselor Vex Nara protested. Their fleet outnumbers yours. 3-1. Maybe, President Rodriguez replied. But we're fighting for our children. They're fighting to keep stolen property. Which side do you think will fight harder? She turned to leave, but Ambassador Krell Fox called out. President Rodriguez, your species is making a terrible mistake. The Empire has maintained peace in this galaxy for centuries. You're emotional. Outburst threatens that peace. President Rodriguez stopped and turned back. Ambassador Krell Fox, you want to know about human emotions? Let me tell you about the emotion that's driving us right now. It's not anger, though we have plenty of. It's not fear, though we know this will be costly. It's love. Love for our children. Love strong enough to fight the entire galaxy if necessary. Love is a weakness, Krell Fox replied dismissively. It makes you predictable. It makes you vulnerable. Does it? President Rodriguez smiled grimly. In 36 hours, we'll find out. As the human delegation left the chamber, the alien representatives began talking among themselves in worried voices. Many species had suffered under Zephyrian expansion, but had never dared to resist. Now they watched humans preparing to fight an enemy everyone considered unbeatable. On the human flagship Defender, Admiral Sullivan was briefing her combat commanders. Captain Tom Bradley would lead the first attack wave. Commander Nancy Phillips would command the Marine Forces for ground operations. Lieutenant Colonel Steve Murphy would coordinate the liberation of the detention facilities. Remember, Admiral Sullivan told them, we're not just fighting for our own children. Every facility we've liberated had children from multiple species. We're fighting for all of them. Captain Bradley studied the tactical displays. Admiral, intelligence shows the Zephyrians are moving their main fleet to intercept us. They're bringing everything they have. Good, Admiral Sullivan replied. Let them come. They're about to learn what happens when you threaten human children. Across human space, civilian ships continued joining the fleet. Cargo haulers, passenger liners, mining vessels, and private yachts all volunteered for the fight. Most had no weapons, but their crews were determined to help in any way possible. The Zephyrian Empire was preparing for what they expected to be a quick victory against an emotional, inferior species. They had no idea they were about to face an enemy fighting for something more powerful than technology or superior numbers. They were about to face parents fighting for their children. The war lasted 18 months, but everyone knew the outcome long before it ended. The first battle took place near the Zephyrian outpost at Kepler Station. Captain Tom Bradley led 50 human ships against a Zephyrian force twice their size. Aliens expected an easy victory. They had better weapons and stronger shields, but they had never fought an enemy like humans before. Bradley's ships attacked in groups, using speed and teamwork to overwhelm the larger Zephyrian vessels. When human ships took damage, they kept fighting until they could no longer move. Their ships are damaged, but they won't retreat, reported Zephyrian Commander Yex Kalta to his superiors. They fight like they don't care if they die. They are just emotional primitives, his superior replied. Press the attack, but the Zephyrians were wrong. The humans did care about dying. They just cared more about saving their children. Every human pilot knew that victory meant bringing kids home to their families. Commander Nancy Phillips led the ground forces that liberated facility after facility. Her Marines moved with a purpose that amazed alien observers. They fought through Zephyrian defenses with a combination of smart tactics and fierce determination. "Ma'am, we've secured detention." "Facility 12, reported Sergeant Bill Carter over the radio. "We found 43 children from 6 different species, all alive." "Excellent work, Sergeant," Nancy replied. "Medical teams are on their way." Lieutenant Colonel Steve Murphy coordinated the rescue operations across 12 different planets. Each time they found a facility, they discovered not just human children, but kids from many other species. The Zephyrians had been kidnapping children from across the galaxy for decades. At Facility 18, they found a group of young Altarians who had been missing for 5 years. At Facility 21, they rescued Centauri children whose families thought they had died in accidents. Every liberation revealed more evidence of Zephyrian crimes. The rescued children became powerful voices for the war effort. Lisa Carter, now 15, spoke to human colonies via video link from the rescue ship, Hope. "They told us our families didn't want us anymore," she said, her voice strong and clear. "They tried to make us forget who we were. But we remembered. We remembered because we knew someday you would come for us." Danny Walsh used his mechanical skills to help design better rescue equipment. At 16, he had become an expert on Zephyrian prison systems. Every facility has the same basic design. He explained to the Marine commanders, "If you hit the power grid here and here, all the cell doors open automatically." The war's turning point came at the Battle of Zephyr Prime, the alien homeworld. Admiral Frank Thompson led the human fleet in a final assault on the heart of the Zephyrian Empire. They faced the largest alien fleet ever assembled, but human determination proved stronger than superior technology. "Admiral, they're requesting surrender terms," reported Communication Officer Susan Lee from the bridge of the flagship Victory. Admiral Thompson looked at the massive alien fleet surrounding their planet. Many ships were damaged or destroyed. The Zephyrians had fought hard, but they had finally realized they could not win against an enemy that would never give up. "Tell them our terms are simple," Thompson replied. "Complete surrender. All detention facilities shut down immediately. All kidnapped children released. War crimes trials for everyone involved in Project Compliance." The Zephyrian High Command agreed to all terms within 6 hours. They had lost over 60% of their fleet and had no choice but to surrender. The speed of their collapse shocked other galactic powers who had thought them unbeatable. News of the victory spread across human space and beyond. Families who had lost children years ago suddenly had hope again. Colony after colony received word that their missing kids were alive and coming home. The first reunion took place on New Terra, where Lisa Carter's parents waited at the spaceport. When she stepped off the transport ship, her mother ran to her, with tears streaming down her face. "Lisa, my baby, we never stopped looking for you," her mother sobbed, holding her daughter tight. "I knew you would find me," Lisa replied. "I never stopped believing." Similar scenes played out across human space as nearly 12,000 children returned to their families. But the rescued kids were not just human. Children from 47 different species were freed from Zephyrian facilities. The aftermath of the war brought unexpected changes to galactic politics. Species that had suffered under Zephyrian expansion for centuries suddenly found their voices. The Regellians revealed that the Zephyrians had been taking their children for over 50 years. The Vegan Confederation admitted that hundreds of their young people had vanished during Zephyrian cultural exchanges. Captain Morrison, now promoted to Admiral, was put in charge of a new organization called the Galactic Protection Force. Its mission was simple: prevent future crimes against children of any species. Never again, Morrison said at the first meeting of the reformed Galactic Council. No species should ever have to fight a war to rescue their own children. The new Galactic Accords included the Morrison Doctrine, named after the admiral who had found the first facility. It stated that crimes against children would be considered acts of war against all civilized species. Any government that kidnapped or harmed children would face immediate military action from the entire galactic community. Ambassador Yeth Prima, who had once urged patience and diplomacy, now worked closely with human officials to identify other species engaging in similar crimes. We were wrong to value stability over justice, he admitted. Humans showed us that some things are worth fighting for. The children who had survived the Zephyrian prisons became symbols of hope and resilience. Lisa Carter studied xenopsychology and became an expert on helping traumatized children from different species. Danny Walsh became an engineer specializing in prison facility detection systems. At the final ceremony marking the end of the war, President Rodriguez spoke to representatives from across the galaxy. Behind her stood dozens of the rescued children, now healthy and happy with their families. "We fought this war for a simple reason," she said. "Children are the future of every species. They deserve protection, love, and the chance to grow up free. Any government that threatens children threatens the future itself." The ceremony ended with the unveiling of a memorial wall listing the names of every child who had been kidnapped by the Zephyrian Empire. At the bottom, carved in stone in dozens of languages, were the words that had become humanity's promise to the galaxy: never again, never forgotten. As families walked away from the ceremony, children playing together in the gardens nearby, the message was clear. The galaxy was now a safer place for all young beings because humans had been willing to fight for what mattered most. The war had lasted 18 months, but its effects would protect children for generations to come. And everyone knew that if anyone ever threatened children again, humans would be ready to fight once more.